Okay. So we will hear from Rochester parent advocates. They are very invested parents or VIPs and represent Parent Voice in the Kids Can't Wait campaign. Today you will hear about early intervention in New York State, the federal laws that establishes your child's right to early intervention and preschool special education services. You will also learn about the campaign and hear parent stories that inspire us to push for policy changes for our youngest New Yorkers. And our hope is that you will feel a sense of community in this space, take action, and join us in the fight for policy changes to improve early intervention and preschool special education services in the state of New York. So, without further ado, Elizabeth, let me know if I completely messed this up, but I'm going to switch to the next slide and let you get us started on a brief history of the early intervention program. And thank you all for putting your name and where you're from in the chat. This is super exciting. First time we've gathered so many parents from so many different parts of the state. So thank you. Oh, and
Can I
also,
interrupt just for a second,
yeah,
just as a reminder? So I'm going to be the timekeeper for tonight. So all the speakers just know that I'll give you a 1 minute warning and then let you know when your time is up.
Here I'm.
all right, take it away, Elizabeth.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Elizabeth Maxwell. I'm going to touch base on, a couple different things. So I want to start out with my story and why I advocate for early intervention. I advocate for early intervention because when my child was 18 months old, she didn't speak. And in Monroe County, there was lots of articles floating around between a capacity list and no capacity list. And what does that mean to a parent? That means you're either on the list to wait or you're going to get services really quickly. I enrolled my child in the program and they said she qualified through the preliminary screening. And so they sent people to my house to do the evaluation, which is normal, and it has to happen within 45 days of you qualifying for service. And they said that I did qualify and I should be hearing from providers within 30 days of them putting everything together and the IFSP being written. 30 days came and went. 6 months came and went.
Said no.
8 months, everybody started to finally slowly trickle in. And it was a long wait. It was very strenuous, not just, on my household, but on me as a parent waiting and not being able to have that real good communication with my child like I had with my older child. It was very frustrating and it created a lot of problems in my home. But as time went on and she got her services, she's progressed. She's doing great. She's 7 years old. She's a motor mouth. Sometimes I wish I had a mute. But it's really all thanks to the great providers that we have in early intervention. And so moving forward, like these things are hard to transition through as parents and navigate when you don't know your rights and you don't know your the responsibilities that you have within the program as far as things that you can ask for. And I just want to touch base on some of the history of the Individuals with Disability Education Act because it's kind of important. So that law was actually signed into law in 1975 by Gerald Ford, but I would be remiss if I didn't say to you that this law really came from years of lawsuits that were born from civil rights legislation. When they created, separate but equal, it moved to uh, Brown versus Board. From Brown versus Board to 1975, there was about 22 years of lawsuits for parents fighting for child equal education opportunities for their children with disabilities. And so that law transformed and it's become what it is from when it was originally signed. Early intervention was adopted into law in 1986. And of course, as many people know, it wasn't brought into enactment in New York State until the 90s. I think it was 93. And so that's my very, very brief history. There's so much in IDEA, but I don't want to get very bogged down into the weeds on it. I do want you to know your rights, and I do want you to have some resources. They are on the slide, and they should be being dropped in the chat. I did include the legislation from Congress, which is a very boring read. It does have 70 section and it has 70 subsections, and it has multiple amendments in it. But there's a lot of great information in there. Um, and it does provide certain resources for you to know for things that are guaranteed to you, but it directs the language for the state. And then I also included Public Health Law 2545. And why is 2545 important? 2545 is very important because in subsection 10 of New York Public Health Law 2545, it does have the 30-day timeline for you in that law. It's in the 10th section of it, and for you to refer to. Um, and then I also included the resources for all the coordinators for our federal representation for IDEA. So their emails are in there. They used to have phone numbers when I first started advocating for this in 2019. So there have been some changes. I don't know if it's because they're working remotely or why, but nonetheless, I did include all of those. And so the Part C coordinator is just for parents who are seeking early intervention services for birth through age 2. Even though 3 is included, it's really birth through 2. And then Part B is for every child from 3 to 21. And I will let Sushmitha touch more on those those parts of Part B when she gets to her part. But as I talk about the importance of things with hold on, Scarlett, with advocacy and why we're here because the fight doesn't stop. We're here because parents have been fighting since 1922, and while it seems like it's been a long and arduous fight, I really want to ignite your passion by saying this group of parents, through the Kids Can't Wait campaign, have moved mountains in 2021 with the Covered Lives for EI legislation, and then again with achieving the 5% increase with the 4% modifier that was just signed last year, I believe it was, and anybody can correct me, but that happened within less than 3 years in New York State, and we're still moving. We're moving forward, which means the federal government has to move at some point.
Thank you, Elizabeth. And I'm actually going to let Bridget take over this next part. So let me know when you need me to change slides.
Great. Elizabeth, thank you so much. That was a great introduction and a great energizing message from you. I couldn't agree more. I'm Bridget Hurley. I work at the Children's Agenda with Sushmitha, and I work on the Kids Can't Wait campaign. I'm just thinking there might be some people who aren't familiar with the campaign, so I'll just do a really brief overview of that. So the Children's Agenda is a nonprofit children's advocacy organization. We don't really work with children directly. We work with families and providers and experts in the field of child policy. Our focus is on changing laws and funding to make New York a better state for kids and families. We work on a couple different issues, but tonight what we're talking about is the early intervention and preschool special education systems. Okay, Jessica's not hearing any audio. Are other folks hearing me?
Hey, Sushmitha, this is a question about if you mute the original audio, this happens, so everybody has to unmute.
Okay. Try now. And Jessica, let us know if it's working.
Okay.
Okay.
Great. All right. I'll move a little bit closer. So anyways, just to give you that brief overview that so we're based in Rochester. We're trying to change state law and funding to get better early intervention and preschool special education services to families in New York State. And Nancy still can't hear me. So I'm going to keep going. And Sushmita, you tell me if I can do something different so people can
I
hear
hear
me.
you, so
Okay. Okay. Anyways, can you go back now to the last
yeah.
slide? Um, so as Elizabeth said, the early intervention and preschool special education programs are available across the country. They're established in federal law. Um, our focus is on New York State, and so to change New York State funding and New York State laws, we're of course focusing on the governor and legislators in New York State, and some administrators. And as Elizabeth said, early intervention focus on children from birth through age 2, sometimes a little bit beyond, and then Section 619 of Part B is preschool special education. So every state has mandated to have this program. It is a federal right that children receive these services. You'll hear us talk about that a lot. If you haven't joined us yet and you're going to, you'll hear us talk a lot about the rights that children and families have under this law. Okay, now Sushmita, if you could switch. The program does differ state to state, but we're just going to talk about New York State's program. So when you get involved in advocacy and you're trying to change a system, one of the important things to know is has control of the system, right? Like who can actually make the changes that you want. So we want more kids to have access to early intervention services. That means we need to deal with the Department of Health because they control the early intervention program. For preschool special ed, it's under the state education department. So sometimes we're dealing with different people in the state government based on which service we're really focusing on. The early intervention program is delivered by counties, and the special ed program is delivered usually by school districts. There are some preschool special ed services called related services. There are a lot like EI that are delivered, that are controlled by the county. And we talked about the ages. So I think I'm going to not talk a lot about delivery because we'll talk about that a little later. But in um, in early intervention, mostly the services are delivered are either in homes or in childcare or other early childhood settings. It's designed to be in a quote unquote natural environment. And so that's the ideal. Preschool special education is similar, but the term they use is least restrictive environment. And the goal there is that children with developmental delays or disabilities should be in settings like classrooms, programs with peers who are typically developing, because that's better for all of the children in the classroom. If there's a mix of abilities among the children, it doesn't always happen that way, but this is the goal of the early intervention and preschool special education programs. So I think I'll leave it there, and then we'll hopefully have time for questions later if folks have questions.
Yeah, thank you for that level setting on the IDEA Act Part B versus Part C, early intervention versus preschool special education. Again, these slides will be sent to you all, so you'll have all of this in writing in English and in Spanish. So, Tina, go ahead and take it away for our campaign overview.
Absolutely. Thank you, everyone. So I'm just going to continue off of Bridget, and she shared a little bit about Kids Can't Wait. I'm Tina Carney. I live in Rochester, New York, and I'm a parent of a child who has benefited from the early intervention program. I'm going to talk about the Kids Can't Wait campaign that was actually launched in 2018. So who is the Kids Can't Wait? We are parents, caregivers, providers, community members who want to make sure that every infant and toddler in New York who experiences developmental delays or disabilities has access to timely early intervention services. Access on the timely, because when they're this young, time is of the essence, and the program is 0 to age 3, so we don't have a lot of time. Kids Can't Wait. What do we do? Kids Can't Wait campaign. We learn about how laws and public policies shape early intervention system in New York. We organize ourselves and our communities to take action. We send letters to elected representatives and get other people to do the same. It's always good to do advocacy with a friend, and you'll likely meet other friends in the process too. I've met wonderful, wonderful people doing this work. It's great. We meet with state assembly members and senators. We speak to the press, and we support one another. We're never alone in this. We're together, and we're stronger when we're together. Some achievements include getting the state to address preschool special education tuition rate methodology, early intervention covered lives bill, and this year's a 5% rate increase for providers. And a provider is like a speech therapist, an occupational therapist, et cetera. When do we meet? When do we get together? The work group meets monthly, and the statewide parent network, those meetings will be quarterly. And if you're interested in joining, and hopefully you are, you can contact Sushmita, and she can be in touch to welcome you and tell you how to join our next meeting.
Sorry, Tina, I hate to interrupt. The interpreter asked if you could slow down a little bit.
Yes, thank you very much for letting me know. Absolutely. So how can you join the Kids Can't Wait campaign? Contact Sushmita, and she can be in touch with how to welcome you and tell you how to get on to the next meeting. 2024 priorities include EI reform bill, student loan forgiveness, and 11% rate increase. I'm going to put a question in the chat, or maybe Sushmita will. Because I'm curious to know.
Yeah, I got you.
What early intervention and preschool special education changes do you want to see in New York?
Yeah, I will drop that in the chat, and Carmen Torres from the Children's Agenda, if you could translate that, that would be great. And then Tina, I'll move on to your next slide while we get that in the chat.
Excellent. Thank you, team. So what can we do as parents individually or collectively as a group? We individually, we could join the campaign. You can contact Sushmita. You can participate in trainings to build your advocacy toolkit. You can learn things about how to speak at public hearings, how to speak with the press, and more. And those are learning opportunities through the Kids Can't Wait campaign, through the Children's Agenda, but also through other groups as well. On the slide, I have a logo of the Greater Rochester Parent Leadership Training Institute located in the Greater Rochester area, and also National Parents Union. Shara Baker is the New York State Director and has been a wonderful resource for me and for other parents across the state in terms of just learning and building our toolkit of what these systems are, how they operate, and how to connect. So those are just two examples. In your other communities, there may be more as well. So another thing that you could do individually is to participate in action alerts, like contacting your elected officials. So the Children's Agenda and the Kids Can't Wait campaign, they're good at communicating and sharing. This is what we need you to do today, and this is what I need you to say and to do. Here's the phone number, or here's the letter. Please do it, and then please invite your friends and your contacts to do the same. So that's at an individual level. At organizing local groups, there is strength in numbers. There's strength in our community. So for example, Parents Helping Parents Coalition of Monroe County, they're parents with lived experience. They support other parents of children with disabilities or delays ages 0 to 5, as well as advocate in policy as well. So if you find people in your local community, you can continue to create groups, and I'm sure they would be welcome to share some of their strategies about how they have organized locally. They work with other agencies and provide families with playdates and other resources as well. They're a fantastic model and a gift to our community. You can join your county local early intervention coordinating council. That's a lot of words. LEICC. Every county in New York has one of these councils. I like it a lot because it brings every stakeholder, every person that is involved in early intervention to a table. That in theory, that's how it's supposed to work. To everybody who's involved in it comes together and discusses how it can be improved. And I'm the chair of the Monroe County Local Early Intervention Coordinating Council as a parent. We're always looking for parents. I'm sure that that is common among other counties as well. So you can do a search for that and look for your early intervention coordinating council. That's another place where I have met a lot of people to form relationships to learn more about the program. So in summary, I think there's a lot as we can do as individuals, but a lot we can do together as a group as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Tina, for that amazing, informative campaign overview. And we will push it along to Miss Chrissy for how early intervention, or EI, you'll hear us say a lot, positively impacted her amazing son, Braxton.
Hello, everybody. My name is Chrissy Miller. First, how it impact how
Chrissy, real quick,
yeah.
your thumb, I think, is in front of your camera.
Oh,
There you go.
sorry.
You're good.
Okay. How did EI work for me and my for my son? I'm sorry. EI worked excellent. My son could not speak at all. When he was a baby, I noticed where he was about maybe he couldn't say mom, he couldn't crawl, he couldn't walk, he couldn't do none of that. Then I was like, well, let me go to the doctors. But first, I used to work on a school bus, and we worked with a lot of special needs children on the school bus. And we had a lot of meetings. We had to go sit through a lot of meetings and understand of who, what, how we was working with the children and how we can meet their needs on the school bus. So that's what we did. That's what I did as a mom. So going back to my son not crawling, not walking, I was skeptical on that because of I knew what to do because I had all the training behind it, but I had to go and ask the doctors. So when I asked the doctors, they told me it was autism. After the autism, after I found out it was autism, my son ended up getting speech from home. And just about maybe 5 months, 5 months, he had speech. 5 months, years old, he had speech. After he had the speech, it actually helped him through it. Me and his speech teacher noticed that he was doing great in the IE for the I'm sorry, EI, and we noticed that he needed to actually go to school. So we started him in a program Stepping Stones, and then we went to after Stepping Stones was no longer. Then we ended up going to CP Rochester, which was great for him. Um, but my thing is, as a parent, I want you guys to understand it's not easy. I'm going to be real with you guys. It's not easy, and I'm a single mom. It wasn't easy for me, but thank God I had the ropes behind it. And yes, we're going to have doors closing for us. But every time that door closes, another one will open. And I'm letting you guys know because it that tried that for me, but it didn't happen because I made sure I went to the right resources to get what I needed for my son. So I want you to everybody to know on this call, don't be afraid to ask questions. If that door closes on you, go to the next person. If that other door closes on you, go to that next person. And I guarantee you, you will find the right person to help your child get through the EI program. It's not easy, like I said, it's not. But I know as advocates, as parents, we advocate for our children. And when we advocate for our children, we make sure we go hard for our kids. This little boy in this picture, he is doing well. He act like he's 20 years old, but he's not. He's only 10. And on this picture, he was at school 29. But after, everything went downhill with the school, he had another program which is perfect for him. But I just want you guys to know that this is really important to all of us to fight for our children. Don't be afraid to speak up. This is really important to our children. And I just want you to understand that we always here, no matter what is going on, we always here to make sure that you get what you need for your children. And any questions, any concern, don't be afraid to reach out to us because we will always have your back. Thank you so much.
I love you, Chrissy. Thank you. Um, yes, so that was great to just capture the spirit of why we're here. We're here to support one another, advocate for each other's children. Even if your child is aged out, like parents are still here fighting for these kids. And it's very important to ask questions and to also know who to go to. And when it comes to advocacy, you always have the VIPs, you always have the children's agenda on how to get involved, how to use your voice, and really impact our policymakers. So that was beautiful, Chrissy. Thank you so much for sharing. Braxton is adorable and loves to sing. So I want to put that out there. Amazing singer. Chrissy played a video and my jaw dropped. Like, not an exaggeration. It dropped. So thank you. And we have Miss Desiree with her early intervention or EI. Oh, you're good. Go ahead, Desiree, whenever you're ready.
Hello, everybody. Sorry for the delay. My kid is having a tantrum right now. So in my EI experience, I have two girls. One is 7 and the other is 2. With my 7-year-old, I did not experience any EI difficulties. But I did have some friends and some people that was at her school who went through difficulties receiving help. And I am currently trying to get speech for my 2-year-old, and the process is it's draining. Basically, I've been told that I would have to wait until next year to have her enrolled in the RCSD to receive services. I've reached out to a couple different agencies, and it's pretty much the same thing, the long wait lists, and basically still leading to me having to wait until next year. She should not have to wait until she's enrolled in like a school-based center to receive those services, because I feel it is a huge setback. By next year, she could be where she needs to be. But she might end up having to have a little bit of a setback because she has to wait so long. And as a parent, there's only so much that I can do myself at home with her, because I don't have the degree to help her with what she needs. And it's kind of frustrating, but I'm gonna do what I have to do and keep trying to advocate so that so many of us parents do not have to wait that long to get the services that we need for them in a timely manner. And that's pretty much all I have to say.
Thank you, Desiree. Hey, Lex and Princess here on these slides. Such sweethearts, and I really appreciate you sharing their stories and your story. So thank you. I know we heard from Chrissy before this about how beneficial early intervention was. And so to know that there are so many children, like Desiree's children, who are waiting for services, it's more of a reason for us to organize ourselves and really speak up and try to get the changes that we need so children in the future don't have to go through this and parents in the future don't have to go through this. So appreciate you, Desiree, so much for sharing your story and these adorable pictures. They're so cute. So thank you. And Mr. Christian, go ahead.
Hi, everyone. My name is Christian. I am a father of two, and I'm here to express the importance of the turnaround for services that our kids need or they're entitled to. As you see, my kid waited 4 months for services that was really important to my family to continue our life. Right. So the biggest thing that I liked about Desiree's slide was the kids can't wait. Waiting causes delay. And it's huge where when you have things going on in life, life doesn't stop lifing. It continues. And it is very important to advocate for the city or services to kind of invest in themselves to make their own programs that they're offering flow better and flow faster. Um, as hence our group, it's called Kids Can't Wait, and our kids really can't wait. 4 months to wait for services is absolutely ridiculous. You get And again, like someone else said, there's turnarounds that are probably faster, but if they invest in themselves, they'd be able to provide quicker turnarounds where we don't have to wait 4 months, 3 months, 2 weeks. It could be a week notice, hopefully. Um, Biggest thing again is to advocate for each other and know that we're not alone. We're all together in this. Um, don't be afraid to reach out to who you have to. As Chrissy said, share your story because you never know who you're going to bump into that could actually help you, right? Um, but yeah, that's my story. Thank you.
Thank you, Christian. And I love that Christian shared how his wait for childcare really plays into this idea of how kids can't wait. When we talk at the end of this meeting about how we can take action and what our 2025 priorities look like, childcare will be a part of that conversation. So thank you, Christian, for really framing that for us about how people are waiting for childcare as well. So imagine the plight for people waiting for childcare for their child with a disability. Um, yeah, so thank you, Christian, for sharing all of that great stuff in your story. Thank you. And Cheryl, go ahead.
Well, hello, New York State. My community, the whole state of New York. I am so happy to see so many of you on here, but I'm going to dig right into why I am here and why do I advocate for my community. I simply advocate for my community for many reasons, right? All of which that allows equal opportunities for all. Some of the highlights that I stand by as I advocate is the number one thing is improvement, right? Improvement of systems, policies that just don't fit our society as a whole. Advocacy can lead to a better infrastructure, right? Services and policies that directly impact the quality of life and our families and friends. Then there's empowerment. We're all empowered at this very moment to be able to take the lead in our life. And in order to empower others, we must join together to address the biases we may have had in order to focus on a greater need in our community. Advocacy helps empower communities by giving the voiceless a voice and tools to move forward and a decision that affects their lives. We have equality and justice. While this one seems to be the one that should be understood, we find that many struggle to receive equal justice. Everyone should have equal access to programs and resources and opportunities for growth and fair treatment. The strength of our community. TCA, the Children's Agenda, we're using our strength in our voices and our advocacy to be able to be leaders and charge in our community, right? And what does that look like? It looks like providing what you know to others who are stigmatized for any reason. It looks like offering a helping hand to families in our communities. It looked like seeking the education behind the crisis to empower each other for the change that we want to see. It looks like I am my brother and sister's keeper. Preservation and culture, understanding that each culture can look different and how they approach concerns. We understand that perspectives and we want to meet people where they are at. The approach helps to protect and promote the unique cultural aspect and heritage of the community. Then it's the encouragement of participation. While some may feel overwhelmed by all the barriers that they may have come in contact with, it is important to have a reframing attitude and an agenda to pursue those who may not know their voice matters. Long-term change. Long-term change, this is what we want to see. We want to see the change in the policies that don't fit our community and hopes this direction will eliminate any future barriers or stigmas in all communities. This is a benefit for generations after us and hopes that someday we all can live in a community without so much trauma, biases, and policies that we are stuck behind and the education behind those things. I wanted you guys to take a look at one of the pictures that I have there. The one that says teamwork. We have, first of all, the puzzle picture, right? And we're fitting all of these pieces together to be able to fight for the change that we want to see. Each of us is a piece of that puzzle, and we're all putting that together to be able to stay on our target. Then we got the one where each of them are holding hands to reach up to that flagpole, right? We're all taking each other's hands right now this evening to be able to reach our target. What does our target look like? It looks like teamwork, which is the last picture that you will see there. You'll see that the funders is at the very top, and that briefcase that that man is holding is bursting out with money, right? Then you got the climber where he's on that ladder and he's changing the color of the word and team because we know that everything can be changed once we start to set the grind in motion for policies to be changed. Looks like we got an advocate down there with the blowhorn, and they're down there just saying, hey, we need this change to happen and we need this change to happen right now. We have the onlookers that's just watching and seeing how the funds are being dispersed. We have the data analyst that's sitting here on her computer trying to find out exactly what it is that our community needs and being able to pinpoint those things to the ones that's holding the magnifying glass, because we need to see really close and we need to make sure that each thing that we are going after is going to be the benefit of our community. We then see the two that's holding hands. What is that an agreement of? Is that an agreement of a change of policy? Is that an agreement of teamwork? right? Because essentially that's what we're all doing. We're working as a team to be able to get everything that we need to do. So that is my charge for this evening, is that as a community, and when I say community, I just don't mean where I live at right now in Rochester, New York. I mean the community of for all of New York, because every policy that has been changed, it benefits all of us, right? So we have to be able to work together as a group to be able to make these changes. When we going into Albany, we go in there with our group and we getting on those buses and we're going down there to speak to legislation. We would like to see those numbers go bigger. All of us walking down there with our children, with our families, and we're speaking to these people and letting them know exactly what it is that we need to be able to make the change for our community and to ensure that each of our children have the education that they need. We shouldn't have to wait for any of it. All of it should be done. And it's something that we shouldn't have to fight for, but here we are fighting for it. So I just ask that each of you just take into this and look at the benefits that we can have if we all group together and be able to build something that the future, that our children behind us can grab onto. Right now, yeah, we are the advocates. We are the ones that's fighting right now. It's not going to make a change for us, right? But it's going to make a change for the generations behind us and to continue that. And it also shows our children, take our children with us down in these places. Even when I go to Albany, I take my child because the children's agenda allows us to be able to do that. So they're sitting in these spaces and they see us speaking. This is something that they can later on do, be able to go up and speak for themselves and advocate for themselves within their schools, within the policies, and within everything that they need. So I just encourage each of you to just take charge of your life, take charge of what you have going on in it, take charge in learning and finding an advocate that can be able to help you. And let's all group together and work together as a team. Thank you so much for your time.
Cheryl. Thank you. Thank you. Really brought that energy. I know that one thing Cheryl said, even when we were talking about this presentation, was how so many of us are in silos, whether that's struggling in a silo or advocating in a silo. But unified parent voice is so important. And Cheryl, thank you so much for really shedding a light on the importance of all of us coming together. There's 32 of us on this call right now, so all of us really joining together and fighting together will make a difference. And yes, thank you, Cheryl. And we have a video from one of our very invested parents, Lynn Mordenga. So for our Spanish speakers who are listening in the Spanish channel, we have this video transcribed. So I wrote out everything that Lynn said, and our parent leadership manager, Carmen Torres, who was translating our chat, translated what she said into Spanish. So I will make sure that all of you also get that in the follow-up email. But our live interpreters will be interpreting this as we watch the video. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Lynn Mordanga and I'm a very invested parent with the Children's Agenda. I want to just share with you the advocacy as a parent matters and parent voice matters. I want to be able to share a success story that I've had with advocacy. I myself doubt myself a lot. I sometimes wonder if my voice really matters in the whole scheme of things. I dislike talking about myself since I never want to sound vain. But back in November of last year, 2023, I had the honored opportunity to be invited with the Children's Agenda to speak on my own personal journey of my own son, Timothy, who waited for early intervention services back in 2022 to 2023 and never got them simply because he aged out of the program. I was able to share this in front of the Commissioner of New York State Department of Health, Dr. James McDonald, when he came to Rochester, New York. After I shared about my own personal journey and the importance of early intervention funding, he addressed my son by name and it made me feel valued since my son wasn't just a number anymore. These were kids' lives who weren't getting the proper support they needed, which is their federal right. Fast forward until January of this year, 2024, Bridget Hurley, who is the Chief Operating Officer of the Children's Agenda, was attending a state budget hearing yesterday, and she sent me this text. I'm in Albany at a budget hearing. The Commissioner of Health spoke earlier about the parent in Rochester who told a moving story about her son not getting the services. That was you. Our lobbyist was sitting next to me, and he said that he mentioned you in several settings, and she thinks it really helped spur him to push hard for a rate increase. Your words have power. Due to this push, the governor proposed a 5% state rate increase this year, which I know has never happened for early intervention in many years. That brought tears to my eyes. Early intervention funding has not been raised in so many years, and that gives us hope. It also gives me hope to continue to fight for our youngest and most vulnerable kids who deserve it the most, and continue to fight for our Kids Can't Wait campaign for increased funding for early intervention. I stand with you and for the past and current early intervention families who are so desperately waiting for services with no answer. You wait in agony for services that you know may never come. You feel helpless as a parent, not knowing what to do since you see your child needs services but can't help them due to the long overcapacity or wait list. I want you to know you are not alone. We are in dire need of New York State for parents, families, and caregivers to join the advocacy fight because your personal stories of early intervention matter. Thank you.
Yes, we love Lynn so much and thank her for sharing that amazing testimony of how her sharing her story impacted the people making decisions. So it's important. There's powers in numbers, or there's power in numbers. So when we all share our stories, it does have an impact. And I really hope there wasn't technical difficulties with that. But again, this will be recorded, so it will be on YouTube soon. And yeah. All right. And then we had Jenny Velos from Citizens Committee for Children, who is going to be here today to talk about why we brought you all here today and what this idea of a statewide parent movement for Kids Can't Wait and just in general for young children with developmental delays and disabilities is all about. She unfortunately got super sick, so I'm going to try to do justice to what she was going to say. Um, so after Advocacy Day in February of this past year, where a lot of us went to Albany to our state capitol, and talked to legislators about the Kids Can't Wait policies that we wanted them to pass, we found that there was really a need to amplify more parent voices from other parts of the state. As you can see, the parents who spoke today are a lot of them are from Monroe County or from the city of Rochester, but we really also need parents from other parts of the state to talk to their own legislators, and let them know that this isn't just happening in one or two parts of the state. This is happening everywhere. Kids are waiting everywhere, and kids cannot wait for these very crucial services. So when we say that we really want to launch or spark this statewide parent movement, we are saying that we really want other parents to, one, know that they're not alone, and two, know that they have a group of parents across the state that they can join together with, talk to, and strategize with when it comes to how are we talking to our policymakers, our representatives, and how are we getting them to make the changes that we want to see. So we hope that this allows us to do more with connecting parents across the state as we are doing here. In the beginning, we all shared where we are from, and that was all over the place, Staten Island, like central New York, everywhere. We want to amplify parent voice in the Kids Can't Wait campaign because parents are the people who know their kids best and know what their kids need. And there's so many parents across the state who know what their kids need and need to get it on time. And we want to create more noise. So we want to be able to share expertise from the parent leaders that you heard from today, who have talked to elected officials, who have talked to the press, who are learning how to write op-eds and articles and things like that, who can really share their expertise and provide trainings on different advocacy skills that might help you in your community, not only to organize, but to also join this larger parent movement of parents who are making noise and not taking no for an answer all across the state. So yeah, so that is really the parent movement we're talking about here. And I will go on to the next slide, which is community reflections. So I'm going to share a link in the chat. And that is a Padlet. And basically what you can do in there is you can post in there. It's pretty self-explanatory once you go into the link. And you can share what parent power means to you. We've heard from a lot of very experienced, powerful parents today. So we just want to get a sense and like a temperature check of what is parent power meaning to you? What does this movement mean to you? And things like that. So very open-ended, but want to really hear what you guys are thinking and have that in a space that is like all in one spot. So while we continue, please go ahead and check out that link that I sent in the chat. It's called Padlet, and it's the English and Spanish is both in there. So everyone can go in there and post their thoughts. And there's also a QR code on this slide if you're on a laptop, but you have your phone out and you want to go ahead and scan that. So I'll leave that up for a couple seconds before we move on.
Shmita, could I just say something while we're taking a pause here
Please.
while folks are contributing to the Padlet? Is that okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm just reading the chat here, and it's so amazing to me because literally, like in the past week, I've spoken with people at the New York State Department of Health who have told me they're not hearing that parents are waiting. So they have data and they know it's a problem, and there's a lot of people, you know, at the state level who are trying to help, but I just want to make it really clear they don't hear from parents much, and so if even just those of us here on this call can, you know, can either send an email or make a phone call and let people know in Albany that your children are waiting, it would have a really big impact.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and go to the next slide, but if you need the link, feel free to ask in the chat. And that's kind of a good vision board for us and a collaborative way for us to all be in one space sharing our thoughts during this meeting. And great segue from what Bridget said. There is something we can all take action on right now. So Tina went over our campaign overview, and this past year we demanded an 11% reimbursement rate increase for providers. What we got was a 5% rate increase with a 4% rate modifier for underserved and rural areas, which is how they're defining it. The student loan forgiveness bill didn't move, but we will still be working on that one. And then this bill, the early intervention reform bill that I have for you all to take action on this slide, the early intervention reform bill is really telling the state to conduct a study that would look into what is the cost to provide early intervention services so that we have more of a backbone to say this is how much more money we need for this program in New York State. So this was a bill. The Senate and Assembly passed the bill. The governor, Governor Hochul, she still needs to sign off on that bill once it gets to her desk. So as many letters as we can get to Governor Hochul to say, sign this bill when it comes across your desk, the better. So there is a QR code right here. And I will send the link in just a second for you all to go. It's a pre-written letter, so you don't have to do much unless you would like to edit the letter to add your story and anything else or change the subject line, but basically telling her, pass this bill. We need this bill passed in New York State now. Okay. Because, yeah, as these pictures say, good support services are coordinated, but early intervention providers are not paid enough to cover coordination time. So this EI reform bill will help us understand how much do early intervention providers need to be paid in order to cover good support coordination. And same with most early intervention services happen at children's homes, but providers are not paid enough to cover transportation to get there. Early intervention providers teach families how to incorporate therapies into daily life, but pay out of their pockets to give families supplies. So this bill is very important to better understand how we are currently underfunding early intervention, how the way that we are underfunding early intervention is an outdated model of funding. The rate setting methodology hasn't changed in a very long time, I will say that. And so really trying to get this up to date and make a difference for families and providers. So please scan this QR code or go to the link that I sent in the chat to send a letter to the governor right now on your phones, on your laptops, whatever you're joining us on, or whatever you're able to send that letter on. And I will make sure that this is sent in the follow-up email for you all to share on social media and things like that as well. And then also, as Bridget said, they're saying that they're not hearing from families who are currently waiting for services. If you are currently waiting for services, please reach out to myself or Bridget. We will put our emails in the chat again. We might have an advocacy opportunity for you all to share that story so that they are hearing from families who are currently waiting for services. And yeah, so that's our take action portion. I will leave that up just for a couple seconds more and let you all scan that if you're using the QR code. Signed. Thank you, Vanessa. Love it. So this is one way that we use our voices in advocacy, is sending letters and these action alerts. But I feel like I heard someone about to speak, so I will let you speak.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to ask a quick question.
Yeah.
Bridget, when you had stated that they're not receiving the data, that families are not, or that are waiting for long durations of times, are you talking about legislators are not receiving that? Or are you talking about DOHMH that aren't aware of that?
I was speaking it specifically then about Department of Health. The people who run the early intervention program say that they just don't hear from parents. And, you know, I say to them, well, these are parents with young children. So that alone makes it really hard to find time to do something like advocacy. And also, if, of course, if you're dealing with, you know, a child that has a developmental delay or disability, that's an extra demand on your time and energy. So I understand it, but this is why we try to make it really easy for you. And I think, I mean, it's really important, as Sushmita said earlier, it's really important for all of us, even if your kids are, beyond early intervention and preschool special ed, we can all advocate for, the kids who are in the program right now. But the policymakers do, I think, have a special need to hear from the stories of people who are waiting right now. And the legislators as well. I mean, a lot of legislators support this, but we need legislators who are passionate about it, and they need to hear passion from their voters, telling them that this is a really important issue. And and then I'll just stop. I'm pretty passionate about it too, but it actually saves the state money when kids get early intervention, because there are some children who only need, a few months or maybe 18 months of services when they're an infant or toddler, and then they enter pre-K and K, and don't need services after that. But when kids who need therapies don't get them, they end up needing them in school age when it's a lot more expensive. So it's also a financial issue as well.
I just find it hard to believe that they're unaware, because I look at the data that they put publicly out. And at least and I'll just give you an example. I'll look at the data in Staten Island. I look within zip code areas. This is all public data. And they'll say something like, oh, 43% of our kids receive services in the last 30 days. Whoopee. And I'm like, yeah, but what happened to the 60% that didn't, right? So it's not that they're unaware. It's the fact that it's easier for them to say, hey, this is what we're doing really well, opposed to saying this is where we're not, and this is where the challenges are, and this is how we need to really look at the data differently, because I don't look at the data the way they do. I look at it like, okay, this is, yeah, you're doing well here, but there's still over 50% of families that are still not getting services. And do you have systems created to track those families until they do receive services? And if you don't, then why not? So, these are things that I think about when I am looking at ensuring that families that I'm connecting to are able to be supported and receive services at an adequate time frame. And I find that sometimes it's our Spanish speaking families, or should I say our non-English speaking families, that are struggling just as well, sometimes even more, because reasons of not having translators when there are translation lines, not having individuals that could support them. It's just, if you can't hear, I am passionate about this, and I am a parent that wish I knew the supports that were provided, or there were any supports provided 17 years ago for my kid, right? So I don't think that it's that they don't know. They know. They're using the reason of nobody's picking up the phone and calling us and telling us is why they don't know. But the data is telling the story. And it's important to look at qualitative and quantitative data. And you guys did a great job today in having families share their stories, because it speaks to the truth of what's happening in these communities. All right, that's my tidbit. Thank you. Good night.
Love it. Love it.
Thank you, Vanessa.
Good.
Very true. I echo everything you said. Richa, go ahead. And actually, real quick, we're going to head into the Q&A portion, so I'm going to stop recording so everyone can feel free to just chat. And yeah. Oh, wait. I was supposed to stop recording, not stop sharing.